Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming today. And I'd like to call the meeting to order. We have quorum. So first on the agenda is the approval of the March 17 minutes. Do I have a motion to approve it?
So moved.
Second?
And I can't, right, because I wasn't there. Okay.
All right. I'm going to do a roll call. Dan?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Jack?
Yes.
Larry, yes.
Oh, yes.
Sharon? Sharon?
You there?
She's there. I just...
Turn on your mic.
Okay. And Brett, you're going to abstain, right?
Abstain.
Okay. All right. Well, we don't need a call.
Yeah. Is you okay?
Yeah.
Anyways.
Okay, first on the agenda is the American Rescue Plan and update, and Bill Keegan will give us an update.
So, good evening, everyone, and thanks for being here tonight. It's good to be back and see everybody in person. So the American Rescue Plan is still evolving as we speak at this moment. At this point, we've had, I say, no less than 3 different meetings with the congressman and his office about how this is starting to roll out. For Foxborough, we're expected to receive about $1.8 million in direct federal aid for this particular program. And then there are for the school aid is about another $750,000 that's supposed to come directly to schools, which will go to the state and then be sent back to the school districts themselves. The $1.8 million payments to Foxborough will become actually in 2 payments. One will come in this fiscal year, fiscal 22, actually fiscal 21, and then one in fiscal 22. And then we have until we have until 2024 to actually spend the money. All right. So the piece that there are 2 things we're waiting on right now. One is direction from the Federal Treasury's office, Secretary Yellen's office, to determine how we can actually spend the money. But from what the Congressman Jake Auchincloss, who's been terrific, by the way, his staff and he's been involved. I think I've actually seen Congressman Auchincloss 3 times in 2 weeks. And I think I saw Senator Congressman Kennedy twice in 7 years. So, I mean, so he's been really accessible, and I appreciate that, and I think we all are grateful for his efforts in this area. But what's happened is that he said that the regulation should be coming out within the next 45 days, 40 to 45 days. They're saying like May 11th we should actually see them. So they're actually accepting comments from us and from other entities to try and clarify that. The piece that's complicated, though, is there's another $137 million that's been earmarked for the county. And the reason why it's complicated is because in Massachusetts it's kind of unique, because we have county government is actually splintered in many ways, because if you go to places like California, you go to Florida, places like that, you have a situation where they're actually fully operational county governments. Where in Massachusetts, they provide certain administrative services. They run the courthouses. They run the things like the jails and the sheriff's office, things like that. So, but there is really a very limited number of services that the county provides. In Norfolk County, actually, they provide some engineering services, things of that nature. But generally speaking, it's not like the rest of the part of the country. So it's further complicated. Places like Middlesex County no longer exist. They dissolved that, and Worcester County was dissolved a number of years ago. Suffolk County is no longer in existence. So we happen to be in Norfolk County, which still exists, as does Dukes County, Nantucket County, Bristol County, places like that. They still exist. So what's happened is that the money has to go through the county and then gets redispersed to the cities and towns in that way. Now, because if you don't have a county currently, the money will go directly from the state back to the individual cities and towns. So it adds additional layer of a process that goes through that. Now, the concern that we have is that the county commissioners are the ones who have authority over that $137 million, and we're trying to make sure that they don't redirect that money towards other uses other than back to the cities and towns. Now, I think we're all okay if they take a small portion of it to take care of some of their own facilities, but I think the true intention of that money was to go directly back to the cities and towns. So just give me one thought, and I'll finish my thought here. So I'm working with 2 or 3 other managers right now. We're going to have a meeting directly with the county executive next Monday, and we've worked on trying to identify, what are the key issues that we want to try and explain and advocate for. But I think at some point we may end up having to appeal directly to the county commissioners and have the 28 cities and towns in Norfolk County appeal on the same level, because it's really important that we get the funding come back. Now, what's interesting about the $137 million is that Foxborough could receive another $3.5 million out of it. So it's real money. I mean, it's something that we should really be putting an effort forward to try and get that as much as we can. So I'm sorry, you was telling me.
In past circumstances where this money gets distributed across countywide, is it usually evenly distributed amongst 29 towns? Is it done by percentage population, or
it's a good question. So thank you for saying that. So it's a per capita distribution. So the cities and towns on the direct aid formula was about $99 per individual in the community. On the countywide money, though, was about $197 per capita. So it was a much higher number, and I'm not really sure why they reached that conclusion. It's not really clear to me, I haven't seen anything that explains that, but that's the way it was done, and so that's why it's really important for us to stay active in making sure that money comes back to us. All right. So the key thing is that stay tuned, because we're actively involved in making sure that happens. Now, there's another piece to this that's really important. So the question is, how do we use the money? And the answer is, we don't know yet, because until we know how we can spend the money, we don't know what we can use it for. Generally speaking, as the Congressman indicated, that the money was supposed to be used for infrastructure, water, sewer projects, and broadband services. Those are the key things, but there are other things too that that you can use it for, including revenue loss, which is something that we also had here in Foxborough because the stadium was closed, and we lost all the hotel and motel tax because of that as well this past year. So we've had genuine revenue loss as a result of that. The other thing is that we want to make sure that whatever use we do, it's a short-term impact, short-term one-time expenditure, as opposed to one that's going to be reoccurring because it's a one-shot deal. And I don't expect that we'll see another big shot of money coming from the feds. In fact, this is the first time I've seen federal revenue sharing since back in the 80s when they used to do it, but we've no longer seen that. We haven't seen that in a long time. So that's where we're at. So in order to get to the spending side, though, I did have a conversation with Bill Euchner and Amy Bertos and George Samia the other day about what could we possibly do. And we thought we'd come up with some ideas and then talk to the 3 major policy boards, the Board of Selectmen, and the school committee, and this board, to see how we can best spend that. Because it's ultimately your money. We just want to make sure that we come up with some ideas that make sense. And it could mean as simple as do nothing and just let it flow to free cash. But the other side of that is that there are still some capital needs that we should be looking at that we didn't address this year. Which I think, actually Larry's very familiar with, because we put a lot of things off. So might simply something we could revisit at some point as well. So, yes.
Yeah, Bill, is there an issue that if you don't use it, you'd lose it? So you'd want to make sure it's put somewhere?
So you have until 2024. So it's not imminent that we have to spend it, and it's like so the $900,000 that would come in this fiscal year it comes late. It's going to come late, so we're going to probably not see it until probably the end of this month. We may see the actual money come in, but the regulations won't even come through until after that. So it's going to be interesting. So I think we're going to end up sitting on it for a little while until we know what we can do with it. And I think that's the key. So yeah.
I just want to clarify something you just said. You said let it float to free cash.
Right.
So we don't necessarily need to spend this right now. We've been kind of spending down free cash to make these last two couple years mesh,
Right.
we could let that float to free cash.
You could, and that could be one of the policy decisions you all come up with, is that,
Okay.
that, what do you want to just let it flow? And, quite honestly, I don't know that we're going to have a lot of opportunity to do anything with that money, given how the lateness in the year
Yeah.
that we're at. So I don't know that
Sure.
we'll be able to do anything with it.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I do think that's a viable option that we can think of.
Bill, the county money, is that gonna be like the federal, you're gonna get 50%, roughly 50 upfront and 50 down the road?
I don't know the answer to that. The only thing that the only amount of money that they talked about doing in 2 payments was the direct payments to the cities and towns.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if that's gonna come in 2 payments, Larry,
Okay.
and that's to be determined. Yeah.
Fair enough, it's early enough.
Okay. Like what was, my wife participated in the PPP program for her office. Is there something in there that you can't use it to reduce, or there's been talk about some of the federal aid that says you can't use it to lower taxes?
That's right, yeah,
Is that the same with the county?
it's actually true, and in fact, there are a couple things that you cannot use the money for, that they were pretty clear about, and that was, you can't use it to lower taxes, and you cannot use it to pay off pension systems.
I was gonna say, we
Those
would be able to
two
use
different-
part of it for the
Two different
OPEB
things. Now,
in the county system.
but what is interesting is that it's not clear about the OPEB side,
Okay.
because in fact, even the congressman the other night mentioned that. So, we didn't, I'll tell you a little good story about that this year, is that we didn't make our OPEB payment this
Right.
year, right?
Right.
But what happened in our investment side, we raised almost $2 million in our investments to cover that.
Right.
So we didn't really need to make the payment, which was great news. I mean, if we'd made the payment, it would have been on top of that.
Yeah, the
But
stock market shot back up.
it would have shot, yeah, and the market shot up again. So we don't know what the pension system is doing at this point, because we have not seen that report yet. But at least on the investment side, because we control our own investments on that, Marie noted that the other night, that we end up taking about $1.9, $1.8 million of new investments. So, yeah. Okay.
Just a technical question. Is OPEB even considered pension? I mean, it's not strictly a pension.
It's
plan.
not, it's post-employment benefits.
Right.
So
Right.
it's really more medical than it is anything.
Exactly, yeah.
It's not actually pension. So that's why I think it might qualify for that.
Okay.
Leave it as a portion, keep it in the county. Yeah, might make it easier.
So even if it didn't qualify for that, we could use that to make one-time payments on maybe a capital purchase or something else,
You could.
and then you could reallocate that money.
That's right. So
back.
it is
There-
interesting.
We have some play there, right?
The congressman used this term several times, fungible. It's fungible money. So in other words, yeah, you can't use that money directly to pay that.
Yeah, but
if you pay that off, you'll free up money to pay this.
That's right.
So,
Yeah.
so it is, so it's a very good
Yep.
point.
Okay.
That
Just wondering.
we're not limited in terms of how we can
As long
deal
as
with
we
it.
spend the money on things that's okayed by
Yeah.
Congress.
Right.
Then whatever cash we have, we can spend on whatever we
Yeah,
want.
yeah, one of the clear reasons why they didn't want to make sure that we didn't do pension things, and we didn't do, lower taxes, because that's an artificial move. It's not going to happen all the time. And so, yeah, maybe the pension thing does help to relieve it for this year, and maybe the investment side will help that. Who knows? But at least on the lowering the tax side, that would strictly be a temporary move, and it would have to go down. And then you could end up with a 6 or 7% increase the next year, which would be not what you want to do, obviously.
There's one thing, Bill, you might want to emphasize is he kept on emphasis on infrastructure.
He did.
And we have a lot of expenses we deferred for infrastructure, so.
Well, it is true, but we've also spent a lot of money already on
Yes,
infrastructure.
yes.
The timing of this is, in some ways, doesn't work for us, because we've already spent the money on most of the water and sewer stuff, and our roads, for the most part, are coming back up. So, yeah, I mean, we did reduce the amount of money we can spend on roads this year, so maybe we put more money
Or
back into
buildings
that.
or anything. no.
Yeah, buildings or anything like that, yeah, that's right.
Bill, we have, in recent years, put a lot of money into the roads. The roads, as you say, are much better than they were. We've put essentially zero into rebuilding or extending sidewalks and bike paths.
Right.
And it may be that those are the areas that you would put some of this new funding
Well,
to.
it may be, Jack. I mean, it's not going to be my decision on this one. It's going to be your collective decisions as to what you think your priorities are.
It's a community.
It's a community priority setting. I think that's something we're going to have to look at. But my sense is that we were getting to the point. We still have a few roads to fix, and then we get into the maintenance stage, which is not as much as the rebuilding stage. But the challenge is that we weren't able to spend as much in the past 2 years because of where we were with, this past year we couldn't spend it, and we probably not have as much spent for next year. So there'll be a 2-year impact on our program that we were doing to fix roads. So we're gonna get behind a little bit. So we might want to fix that.
To echo Jack's point, the 40 streets identified in the Complete Street program comes back with a $10 million price tag.
That's
so
right, exactly.
That's
and that's just not, Complete Streets is not just roads, it's also sidewalks and bike paths and bike lanes, so to speak. So the key thing, what was interesting is that we were scheduled to be, if we had not been impacted by COVID, I think we were planning to be at the starting of the sidewalk improvement phase. It would have been this year upcoming or for next year. So now we might have to look at that and see how we can maybe get to that point. But it was part of the plan, just to be clear about that. Okay.
Any further questions? Thank you, Bill. That's good news.
You're welcome. Yep.
Okay, next on the item on the agenda is the revised or final fiscal year 22 budget.
So just on that end, I just wanted to, you all got the most latest version that George and Maria had sent out.
Yep.
I think George and Maria are on the call as well.
I saw their names.
Yeah, they're here. Yeah. Okay, great. So I will just indicate to you that because we're at a point now where we do believe that we're in a better position than we were when we first started, for a couple of reasons. One is the fact that our health insurance costs came in lower than we thought. We were actually to save about $1.2 million this year on health insurance, and heading into next year, the rate increase was below the estimate that we used of 3%. We're down to about 2.61%. So that did help. Also, our pension estimate came in lower than we thought as well, and that made a difference in lowering our costs on that side as well. So that was an important consideration. And then on top of that, we were really concerned about the Southeastern Mass number because it didn't come in. It came in late. We literally just got this last week. And that number was, we had estimated to come in about 7.5%, and it came in right about 7.5%. So it didn't really hurt us at all. It was up, if you look at it on paper, it's actually up about 37,000, but because of the ESSER money that they can use, that's the federal money that came in, they can actually reduce that money by 37,000. So it makes it just about even in terms of the impact. And I'm going to have the selectmen vote that next week when they meet again on the 13th. So all in all, we're at a point now where our revenues are about 2.93% up, which puts us in a position where, and also the other concern that we wanted to do was not to go any higher in terms of use of free cash than we did this current fiscal year. We were very concerned about doing that. And at one point, we were up to 1.2 million, 1.25 million, and now we're down back to 900,000. And how we were able to do that was because if you take a look at it, we really were overshooting or undershooting our estimates on our local receipts. And so we've gone back and looked at that, and based upon where things are right now, things are starting to reopen. We think that our local receipts could actually absorb that. So we think we're going to be okay in that regard. Puts us in a better position going into next fiscal year with that little bit of a bump. So all in all, if you take a look at where we are in terms of the budget itself, let me just get down to the final numbers here. So on the general fund operating budget expenses, we're up 2.76%, which is actually below where we were this current fiscal year. So even though we took some really important steps to kind of curb our situation last year, and because we were heading into a difficult year with this fiscal year, we were able to keep the budget down into that same category. We were at 2.8, I believe, last year. We're at 2.6 this year, 2.76 this year. The old total general fund expenses are at 2.88, and the only reason that went up a little higher was because we had to absorb a snow removal supplement now of $194,000, which has to get raised on the next fiscal year budget by law. So that's where we're at. I think I also want to share with you some really good news as well, is that we had, yesterday we received notification from Standard & Poor's that we confirmed our AAA bond rating for the third time. The first time was back in 2016. The second time was in 2018, and now this is 2021. It's been confirmed again. What was interesting was that they were very complimentary about how we managed to get through this particular year. And they said that, generally speaking, they gave us really high management marks in terms of how we handle things, and actually very good marks on our budget practices as well. So that was good news to see that too. And so that's a worldwide agency that looks at this on the outside looking in, and said that, and they looked at us and said that we were doing a pretty good job. So that's good to hear that, and it's good to have that kind of confirmation.
That's great news, and it impacts what we can borrow money for.
Exactly right. So what does a AAA bond rating mean? Yep. It's essentially like having a 900 credit rating, is what it is, because that's a personal credit rating. If you wanted to go borrow money to go, say, buy a car, or to borrow for a house, you get the best rating, the best rate available because of that. Mm-hmm. So that's the same thing that applies to us. We're going to market next week for the water bonds, about 9.2 million. And we think that'll have a significant impact. Now, to go to show you how much of an impact that really had, last time we went to the market, we were borrowing money within the ones, which was extraordinary. That's practically free money when you think about it. Yeah. I don't know if we'll quite get to that point this time, because the market has shifted a little bit upward, but I do think it'll be within the twos. I don't expect it to be much higher than that. And we estimated, I think, around 3.5 in terms of how we estimated for the project originally. So I think we'll be okay. I think we may even see that number come down. It could drive the borrowing cost down even further than what we anticipated. So that's the latest. I know George and Maria are on the call as well, so if they want to add anything, I'll defer to them at this point. But that's the latest information I have.
I'll just throw in one thing, Bill, through you, Larry, obviously. Mm-hmm. I think if you take a look at everything, Bill was on it anyway, mm-hmm. and if you take everything into context, meaning you've got an audit that usually comes out pretty good, you've got a Standard & Poor's rating that usually comes out pretty good, we have a free cash at the end of the year, kind of tells you where we are. All these things are single indicators, which when you put them all together tells you where you are for the town. So that AAA does mean a lot. Oh, and if you put it in conjunction with a lot of other things, I think it kind of says it for you. So.
No idea. Yeah. So. Okay.
Thanks,
all right.
George. Thanks, George.
Thank you, George.
Any questions on the revised budget?
I don't know what was expected originally for FY 2022, but just going to the post office today, is there any word as to when things will start on that Wall Street project? When those revenues will start coming in?
Yeah, all I know, Tom, is that the contractor has in fact reached out to the town and is actually very much interested in starting and getting going this spring. So I think to the extent that that projects, I think what held up a lot of projects this past year was supplies. Yep. And people to get to work on the projects were really slowing things down. I think borrowing costs are probably concerning a little bit to the developers right now, so they want to try and get going on stuff if they can, so they can sort of beat that situation.
There's no state or town preclusions against them starting with.
No, they actually have the permit and they're ready to go. So it's just a matter of them lining up their contractors and getting their folks going. So, and the sooner they can pull a permit for us is better for us, because that's permit money that will come into this fiscal year.
Was there an estimate on how much the building inspectors would have seen coming from all the?
I don't know that answer. I don't know that, but I'm sure it's significant, because it's
going
to be a big project, so it's going to be a good number. I mean, you're probably at least maybe in the six-figure number, you know. So I would think.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thanks.
Okay, next on the agenda is for Mike Jones to talk to us about the contract, Town Article 9 through 11. We'll start with fiscal 21 first.
Sure. So for the fiscal 21 contracts, we have 3 contracts that were really one-year extensions to get us to this point. And those contracts are the Steelworkers Unit A, Steelworkers Unit B, and the police contract. And the police contract is for FY21, which is the year we're in, is $70,000 to pay for that 2% COLA. And for Steelworker Unit B is $35,000. And then the larger of the Steelworker units is Unit B, and that's $39,000. And then for FY22, coming into the new year, we have 5 contracts that we've just recently ratified. And starting again with...
Mike, can I get...
Yes, yes, certainly.
I'm sorry, the police contract is just 70,000, right?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Got it. How's that?
So Chairman, and I just want to interject here just for 1 second, is that I will tell you, about a month ago, I wouldn't have given you a dime towards a bet that we were going to have all these 5 contracts done. So I think a lot of credit goes to Mike and his diligence and effort, but also to the unions for sitting down and really getting this job done. So I give credit to both sides for working this out in a very short window of time. And the Chief Grace had noted the other night that this is, I think, the first time in 22 years that the contract for the police officers has been solved before the start of the contract year. So that's pretty extraordinary when you think about it. So to his credit, to Mike's credit, and to the department's credit, it's good news. And I think it's a fair contract for both sides. As Mike noted, both sides left the room not 100% happy, but that usually means it's a good deal.
It's a good contract.
It's a good contract, because not everybody's not one side is happier than the other one. So that's actually a good sign.
It's usually good.
Usually a good sign. Go ahead, Mike.
And we were on the FY22 contracts. We were back to the table many times. In fact, George, Marie, and I spent just shy of 38 hours at the bargaining table amongst the 5 units. And then, of course, the prep work and all of that in between. And that means that those unit members were there as well. And Chris Gallagher, our DPW director, that was with us, of course, with all the DPW work, and the police chief. But anyways, for the FY22 contracts, the police contract is $73,000. The Steelworker Unit A contract is $37,000. Steelworker Unit B, the cost of that is $41,000. And DPW, that contract cost is $37,000. And the library is the 5th one, and that was $24,000. Yes, Jack?
Would you take a moment to give us a capsule? What is Unit A and what is Unit B?
Yes, good question. So there are about 50...
We don't have any steel workers in town.
No, we don't.
I was asking that about 5 years ago.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Personnel board.
The first time I saw president of the Steelworkers Union on someone's resume was before I was working here. And I thought that, and he was this big fella, and I thought that's what he did. He was a welder, and he's doing I-beams and that sort of stuff, and then come to find out he was a government worker, and he was part of this steelworkers union. And so a lot of the members of the steelworkers are actually government employees. So the Unit A is our department head and supervisory unit. That's the managers. And then Unit B are the rest of our administrative assistants, our clerks, and many other positions. So these two units are quite different from any of the other unions where there's a lot of very different positions and job descriptions, and they spread across town. So, good question, thank you. And are there any questions on either the FY21 or FY22 numbers or contracts for me?
Mike, Brian and Dennis, they're both not here today, but the recording and watching, so if they have any questions, they might reach out to ask you for, because they have some of the articles.
Okay.
John Mahoney, you have 2 articles, which is Article 15 and 16. So John is here. If you have any questions from Mike, it's all yours.
No, not at this time.
Okay. I think we're good, Mike. Thank you. And thank you for getting it done, because I was, we were talking, I said,
Yeah.
you don't
I
have to-
didn't. I would not have taken that
No
back.
action.
I will tell you, I really wouldn't.
Yeah.
And by the way, I neglected to say that I'm really grateful for the efforts of the department heads.
Absolutely.
And George and Marie, who spent endless hours trying to get this done as well. So I'm truly grateful for their efforts as well. So thank you.
It's
There was
great effort
some,
by everyone, you and,
Right.
and workers.
there was some guidance going into this year, and that was that the selectmen and Bill really wanted the contracts wrapped up by the end of March, by the selectmen's last March meeting, if they were going to go to town meeting. Had we crossed over that, I don't know how tightly we would have been held to that,
Right.
but I took that very seriously to give the selectmen time to digest this, and I went into in very fine detail in executive session with the selectmen as far as what comprises those numbers, all the different components. And I came tonight here to you more prepared to just talk about the numbers themselves, to present that to you and see if you had any general questions. Yes, Jack?
Is it too early to ask some of the details in terms of, rather than just the total numbers, there are other things that are changed in the contracts. What are the substantive ones?
Sure. So there are substantive ones from both sides, both the town and the unions. And I guess the biggest ones are in steelworkers. And one of the things that the town, well, let me first start by saying across all 5 contracts, it was important for the town going in to really try hard to keep this to a 1-year contract, given the times that we're in. So we said that right up front. We would, and each of the unions came in wanting a longer contract for obvious reasons, stability, that sort of thing. So that was one of the big things that we came in with. But as far as
So what did we settle for, 1 year?
we did 5 1-year contracts.
The contracts.
And so I'm grateful that the unions were, there were a couple that pushed back really hard because they really wanted, sincerely wanted 3-year contracts, and understandably so. And but in the end, all 5 were, we did come to
We'll be
agreement.
busy again next year.
I think it's fair to say, though, that
Yeah.
there was a purpose behind that, is because we still are not out of the dark completely yet, and none of us felt comfortable with taking that step into, securing 3 years at this point. I do think that we'll be in a better position to do that next fiscal year, quite honestly, and I think it's actually good news for 2 reasons. One is the fact that there will be a transition in terms of the town manager's role during that next contract period. And I think it's good to have some labor stability during that transitional period. And then second of which, I think it builds stability in the workforce as well by having that across the board and having the employees know what the expectations will be over the next few years. I think there are a few things that we'd like to see, but wouldn't probably get them in a short-term contract, but might in the long term. And I think the unions feel the same way, that they want to see some things as well. And we'll see how we can make that work in a longer-term deal. But it's fair to say that I think going into next year negotiation process, we would be looking at and assuming that all things stay same, all things considered equal, we'll be looking at that. And my recommendation to the board and to the town would be to look at that, longer-term deals going into next fiscal year. Fiscal year 2024, 23 rather, 23.
So in addition to the 1 year being important to the town, the evaluations are an important component. We want to use those to develop our workforce. And it was only within the last 5 or 6 years that we actually got evaluations into all of the bargaining units. In fact, the library was the last unit that we got evaluations on, and that was 3 years ago. No, 2 years ago. But one of the important things this time was to take hold of some more substantial evaluations, especially in the steelworkers. So back to your question about, what are the steelworkers? In Unit A, those are our supervisors. So water supervisor, highway, DPW, tree and park supervisors, and then our assistant superintendents, our department heads, these are folks that had the same evaluation instrument that we were using for Unit B. And it was something that, often you'll have, and not just in town here, but often you'll have unions pushing back really hard against evaluations because it can be used to deprive somebody of a raise, a step raise. And we've worked really hard to build trust and to make these evaluation instruments a developmental tool. So Bill and I say all the time, we don't use evaluations as a weapon, we use them as a developmental tool to create a better, more unified, better performing, more efficient and effective workforce, and to also work with people individually or as a group to make them more cohesive and better. So Unit A in particular, being evaluated on evaluations that really were not appropriate for their level, for the skill. So there was no evaluation of their budgeting skills, their managing of a team or a workforce skill. It was really very rudimentary. So that was important, and so that was something that we got. One of the more costly things that spread actually across both DPW and our Unit A were, well, let me back up for 1 second. Once upon a time, and you'll remember about 10 years ago, there was water, and there was tree and park, and there was highway, and they was separate. And then, to really create a more efficient public works component, we put them together. And that's done great things as far as, creating efficiencies in money, but also in getting things done time-wise. And so we all remember the days when we would go out and pave a road, and the next year or 2 years after that, we'd rip up a road to run a pipe down the middle of it. So we don't do that anymore. It's under one roof. So when we brought folks under one roof, those 4 divisions, we took a water division, which is very, very different than the other 3 divisions. So they have very clear steps or pathway to their advancement. If somebody gets a new distribution license or a new treatment license to a certain level, that's their next step, where it's not quite as well defined in the other 3 divisions. Now, we do have there's a pathway, and certainly people can advance. But when they were brought together, there was also a pay difference on the weekend duties that came with the water department. And that was, people get paid if they come in for that duty, but just to be on standby duty, there was a very, something that was very different from water to the others. So that's something that was really important to the folks over at DPW and the steel workers who are part of the DPW in the supervisory roles, to bring some equity there. And we know that's going to benefit the employees, but we believe, and that was something that they really brought to the table and they fought hard for, but we believe it's also going to positively affect the town, because now we're going to have folks that aren't looking at each other as enemies, but they're actually, that jealousy sort of thing, or that, how come he or she is making that and I'm making this sort of thing. So we think there was a benefit. Those are really the substantial things. Otherwise, we came in at a, we think is a fair COLA rate. We know it is because we researched it.
What's the rate, Mike?
So 2%.
2%.
And we researched that actually across the state as well as within our 15-town comparables, and that's where the rates are. And we looked at that over the past 5 years, but particularly for FY21 and 22. It was tough to find comparable data for 22 because a lot of towns were doing exactly what we were doing, and they hadn't published their or shared any of their data yet. But we have since collected a lot of the FY22 data, and to this point, the average is in our 15-town area is 1.99, and across the state, for those who have reported, is 1.97. So we know we're right in there. So we think our comps are good.
Can I ask a couple of questions then about this? Is when you compare to other towns, are most towns also doing like a 1-year contract because of the times that we're in? And then the second question will be, is it almost like they feel like they're doing us a favor a little bit? So when you go back the year afterwards and going for a multi-year, are they going to look like, hey, we helped you out, and it's going to affect negotiations at that point?
So the first part of that is it's a mix across the state and from the communities we talked with. A lot of folks, for the same reasons that we wanted to do a shorter deal, particularly 1 year, a lot of towns are doing that. There are some that we've seen that are doing 2 and 3 year. So we didn't want to take a chance because we just don't know. Things could be great next year, or things,
I think it's wise. Yeah, sure, doing the 1 year.
We just think we'll be in a much better position in a year or even 6 months when we start talking about these contracts to, we're on a little more solid ground. So, but there was a mix across the state of what other people are doing, and it was generally 1 or 3 year. What was the other part of your question?
As far as how are you going to negotiate when you come back to look at a multi-year? They're going to look to say like, hey, we helped you out in that 1 year, now they might play a little harder ball and say you owe us or something.
Not really.
Okay, good.
Because when we walk away from the table, once the MOA is written and ready to go to get ratified, yep, that deal is on the table, and there's give and take there. But we walk away from that, and then when we come into negotiating next January, it's time to line up at the table, and the table's clear until we start putting proposal on there. Yeah. So neither side starts out behind in the beginning of negotiations.
It's a fair question, but the answer is simply, from what I can see, no. The answer is no. And the reason why is because I think everybody here understood that, we're in a little bit of an uncertain time. Things are getting better, but we want to actually see the numbers to make sure. But generally speaking, our numbers are ticking up a little bit, which is good news.
Great.
But we're not there yet. And I just want, until we get past, I'd say we'll have a better feeling about this where we are probably by September of this year. We'll get a better feeling for that. But having said that, there clearly is an interest on both sides to do a multi-year agreement going into the next few years, because as I said earlier, that you can usually get more substantial agreements on a multi-year agreement than you can with just a short-term agreement, because obviously both parties there's going to be give and take in order to get there.
Good. Thank you. Those are good questions.
Thank you, Mike.
Any further questions for Mike? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Bill, just a quick clarification on the southeastern budget. When you bring it to the selectmen
Yep.
the next meeting,
Yep.
just email me the number, so Bernard, when we do the vote, we know what the new number is.
Sure, yeah, so the new number will be roughly about $37,000.
Yeah, but Bernard wants to, we want to read out the actual.
Fair enough,
number.
yeah, so
that's-
we'll take care of that, but by the next time. so
It's
the
good,
13th,
it's
yeah.
good, it's coming down, so.
Yeah, it's good, it's gonna fit within the number that we actually projected anyway,
Right.
so it's a good thing. Okay.
Okay, I think we are done with Mike and Bill. Bill, you're welcome to stay, of course, and Mike too. And then we're gonna start voting on the non-budget town articles. I know last week we went through, a lot of people gave a quick presentation on the articles. And actually, oh, you're not leaving, right, Bill?
No.
Good, I'm gonna talk to you after that. Okay. So, the best way to do is go in order of the articles, so that way we won't miss anything. Sharon had to sign off. She doesn't feel good, so anything that deals with Sharon, we're done. Dennis was supposedly gonna zoom in, but he hasn't confirmed yet, so if we get to Dennis and he's not here, we'll skip him. So the first thing on the town article is item number 6, and that, 1, 2, 3, yeah. Town Article 6, which is the revolving fund.
Yeah, this
Bylaw amendment.
is just setting up the 2 new revolving funds for the fire department vaccinations and for the school. The fact the school takes in money, it needs to be able to spend that money on computer upgrade and repair. So it's a pretty straightforward one.
Any questions for Paul? Anyone? No?
I have a question, not necessarily for Paul, probably best suited for Bill. Have we ever disbanded a revolving fund?
Not in the time I've been here, it may have happened, but.
So I guess my point is for the vaccinations, this revolving fund, we're assuming that this will be disbanded in the next couple of years, right?
Yeah, it could potentially, yeah.
It can't be used for anything else, right?
We don't think so, I mean.
Okay, I'm just,
Yeah. I mean, the only other thought on that, Dan, would be, I don't think, it wouldn't be a goal to try and keep it there if there was no use for it. But
right.
if there's another medical use, then we would probably want to come back and clarify that for that purpose.
Now, would that have to be would that have to go to town meeting?
It would.
To be appropriated in a different direction? Okay, all right, cool.
It would have to be defined.
I mean, the reason I'm asking is I see the IT revolving account going a long time, right? I think we all do. But the vaccination one, I think we all hope is only 2 or 3 years max, right?
Yeah, what was that?
Typically, that's true. That's true.
Right.
But it could be, unless there's another medical type use that would make sense to use.
Another
that.
pandemic or whatever, yeah.
But it
Okay.
would be-
Well,
Can I comment on that?
Go ahead, Mike.
Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, hey. So when we brought so prior to Tom Kenvin and the public health coming under the fire department, we subcontracted with a nursing agency, and they provided our flu shots and.
You just froze. There?
All that running.
Like
Someone
that.
running across his
That was
house.
Very dramatic.
There you go. Go ahead, Mike, you're back.
Sorry.
You're good.
Go ahead, chief.
Okay, so this was just this was just to bring that so we could fund like flu vaccines and other vaccines like Tdap and tetanus and things like that. So that's what this fund is for. So it's so we can have a funding mechanism like basically perpetual throughout the years to fund other vaccine programs as well. That was what that was for.
But just for my clarification.
Other health things too.
My clarification, Chief, this is things you're collecting money on, right? We're getting receipts.
Yes, that's correct. Yep. Things like we had a big flu clinic. We had about 500 doses of flu. So we have to purchase them from the various vaccine distributors.
And then the IT one, I thought, Bill, was specific to the money people are paying to get the devices in their homes right now. Is that not right? So the other IT revolving fund that.
Yeah, the IT revolving account, let me just put the microphone.
You might as well.
The IT revolving account was needed because What they're trying to do is they need to collect a certain amount of money from residents to repair the computers if they break.
Right.
And so there was no real mechanism in place in order to do that. So this is actually a necessitated by virtue of the fact that the world we've become is very home computer driven. So we have to do it that way. And this made the most sense.
But going back to Dan's question, absent a pandemic or some sort of thing where we're doing a lot of hybrid and at home, this fund really shouldn't have a life.
It shouldn't have a long life, but it's, unless, like as I said, Mike mentioned that there could be other vaccines that the fire department issues.
Yeah, I was thinking more about the IT fund.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
The IT should go on because right now every kid gets a computer home.
Okay.
So going forward, that
Got it,
$35 will be paying. If you break it,
Got it.
that's your insurance.
Okay.
So
But if
it's going to stay.
But if we ever did like another type of vaccination type program, that fund would be available for them so they can collect the money for doing it and then buy more vaccines and then continue to use it and then continue to build the program based on that. So they've become very adept at doing this, and similarly, Mike has been very good at he's very entrepreneurial in his approach, so that's a good thing for us, and I think that to an extent that we can continue to support that. But, the short answer is that we hope that won't be a long-term need for it, but unless there's something else that comes up we haven't thought about.
Tom has a question.
That provides, like, when they were working in company with the Council on Aging, the Council on Aging has a revolving fund, so they could use that to say, we're going to sponsor a vaccination day and work with that. So two revolving funds can work intermingle.
Yeah, well, so anything that would be related to the vaccination process would come under that fund. All right, so whether it wouldn't matter necessarily which department it was, but it would all go into that.
All right.
Okay, can I ask a question for Mike Kelleher? I'm assuming he's still there. So is this revolving fund gonna kind of scale down a lot to be able to do small, like flu vaccines, tetanus vaccines, that sort of stuff, and then scale back up in case of an emergency? Or is it going to be something that's kind of, that necessarily disappears? Do you know what I'm saying? I guess what I'm asking is, are you expecting this revolving fund to be in existence for an extended period of time?
Yes.
Yes. Keep freezing up on us, Mike. There you go. You got it?
Nod your head slower.
Sorry. Yes, no, I expect the revolving fund to be in existence for quite a while because the town didn't provide flu clinics. It was a private entity that was providing those flu clinics.
Got it.
So basically what we're going to do is use this as seed money year to year to provide flu vaccine. There's a variety of testing capability we have now with, strep, flu, COVID, things we utilize grant funding for during the crisis that is going to carry us on into the future. So it'll scale down certainly because, obviously, COVID testing and COVID vaccines they'll probably trail off at some point, but year to year, we're going to continue to do flu testing. Flu vaccinations probably going to be our primary one, but I think we did 400 or 500 flu vaccines last year. We've probably done 2,000 maybe COVID vaccines just off the cuff. So it's going to be dramatically lower, but this will be seed money year to year, so it doesn't have to be pulled from somebody's budget. So it'll be fun. The vaccine program will fund the vaccine program.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. So did that used to be included under your budget or another budget? Are we freeing up some money here for you guys to be able to, use in other areas, or is that something that was just basically straight up by those nursing folks?
No, this year I had to purchase I had to eat the flu vaccine out of our budget. It was about $8,000 or $9,000.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
So that's going to lead me to a question on the next article, but let's put forward that we should go ahead and vote on this.
Yeah, can I have a motion to vote on Article number 6?
I so move.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Well, since we have no one on Zoom, I don't have to do a roll call. So any further discussion?
No, I think these make sense, and I think it's a sensible way to make these issues kind of
Yes, sir.
Routine.
Just a point of order, the selectmen voted last Tuesday night
Yeah.
to support all the articles, to recommend all the articles, with the exception of 26, I believe it
Right.
was, which was the one
Three-
involving the capital
Right.
plan.
Okay, just, all the articles were voted 5-0, supported by the selectmen, except Article 26, which was 3 against, 2 for it.
Yeah, and to be
Yeah, so it
clear,
didn't, yeah.
to be clear, so everyone knows, they voted them all as a block as well.
Yes.
They didn't vote them
Yes, correct,
additionally.
correct,
Right.
correct.
Yes.
They voted them all.
Okay.
Which we won't be doing,
We
because
won't
we
be
have
doing-
people
we'll
in
do
and
one
out
at a
and whatever,
time,
but
yeah.
they voted them all as block.
Correct.
So do we have a vote?
Yeah, so all in favor? Great. Opposed, 0, so 7-0. Thank you.
Right, I'm gonna jump-
Article number 7,
Article
again, it's
7, so
Paul.
these are the actual spending limits for the revolving fund. So my question, Bill, is, so if you look at this, we're actually sort of, retroactive is not the right word here because we're still in that fiscal year, but for the 2 new revolving funds, we're setting aside a cap. What are the implications for the money he has spent, paid out of his own budget here? How does this work?
So the cap, the number that we set in there should be fine for the one that have been set for now.
Okay.
And if we needed to, at any point in time, if say for instance, we go back in the fall and we could adjust that number if we needed to. So it is a number that can be adjusted from time to time based upon the need. Okay?
So these are the dollars for those 2 plus all the ones going forward. The only big change was the Council on Aging. They're hoping to have a spring trip. So that's a big jump there, but these are relatively straightforward as well.
I don't remember if you explained it last time, but can you explain how they affect, so they split up into what, 2021 and 2022 budget? Don't we have, right? So we have a little bit of money coming into this year's budget, correct?
So the new ones,
Yes,
could not be, we would normally, we were gonna vote those in the fall, but we couldn't do it.
correct, yep.
So now we're doing it now, so prospective, it'll be for this fiscal year, and then we'll do prospectively for 22 as well.
Okay, all right, thank you. Yep.
We're essentially funding, or putting a spending limit on some things that we didn't know were going to happen.
Exactly,
Right.
yep.
Yeah, it's not appropriating funds, it's just allowing you to spend the
Exactly.
funds
Just
we
puts a
have.
cap.
I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure that everyone understood that, because it took me a little while to wrap my head around it last
Yeah,
time.
Because your 5 are already in existence, so they
Right.
already had.
To Tom's point, not everybody listening or in the room may know the full details. This is really just a spending limit for operations where we're taking in money.
Right.
It caps it, it's not actual budget dollars.
Yep.
And I move we accept the article.
A second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? 7-0. Article 8, Paul.
So Article 8 is a cleanup item. When we had Article 23 2 years ago, we forgot a clause that allowed us to take the premiums we take in on the bond, to actually pay the bond down, so we are going back and amending that.
Any discussion? It's a technical correction, I believe,
That's right.
on this one.
An important one, yeah. So I move that we accept it.
Do a second? Okay. Any further discussion? No. All in favor? 7-0. Okay, Article 9 through 16, we will wait until next week. And then next one is Article 17. Sharon is offline now. So the next person that's available is Article 19. Tom? Give us your little,
Yeah, as he came on the last meeting we had to further explain this one, there's no real concerns here. It's voting the authorization of the board to transfer the town-owned land off Oak Street. It's we talked about the butterflies and mushrooms. So I don't see there's no real major concerns that came up with our discussion when we were questioning him, or I haven't had anybody come to me with regards to, you forgot to ask about this, or I have concerns. No one from town has come to me with that.
any further questions for Tom? Okay, Tom, you want to make a motion?
I will make a motion to accept this.
Second?
Okay. Any further discussion? No? All in favor? Opposed? Oh, favor, okay. 7-0. Okay, Article 20, Dennis is not here. Article 21, Sewer District. John?
Yep, so there is a condo off Mechanic Street. I believe it has about, I think about 16 units, and this is simply a request to extend the sewer district over the condo development so that sometime in the future, if that condo board decides they want sewer, they can move forward with the project. It doesn't cost the town any money. All it does is make them eligible to request that in the future. So I don't see any reason why we should oppose it. There's plenty of sewer capacity right now.
Any further question?
Are those, excuse me, are those the ones behind, on the other side of the traffic light there before Pine Street? Ones that were just built a couple of years ago?
I think it's closer to 100.
No,
I'm sorry, yeah, it's closer to 100.
This would be across from the graveyard
Yeah.
at the corner of Mechanic and
Chestnut.
Chestnut, yeah.
Tom, you know,
Okay.
that's a condo development.
Okay, those,
Across
those,
across from
okay.
100,
Those-
if
yep,
you're coming
yep,
from
yep,
Chestnut,
yep.
it's around that area.
Yeah,
The guy's got the blue light there in his car.
it's between
Yes, okay. I know
Ahern
exactly- I know
and
what it
the
is.
graveyard.
I was thinking the other end of Mechanic.
On
right.
the opposite
Oh,
side.
I was thinking the other end as well. Okay.
Yeah, I thought,
Yep.
I thought
All right.
the numbers come up the other way, okay. Gotcha.
Any further questions for John? No? Want to make the motion, John?
All right, so we have a motion to vote in favor of extending the sewer district.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, okay. Any further discussion? No? Okay, all in favor? All right, 7-0.
7-0.
Guess I'm voting faster than I could write it down, so. Okay, Article 23, Brad?
Okay, Article 23 had to do with a correction to the historic Baker Street Historic District map. It didn't seem it was that complicated. It says some things that corrections that just had to be done, no change of the boundary.
Cutting buildings in half, that's all.
Okay, right. Didn't seem too complicated. I think that's all we had with that one.
Any further questions for Brad? Brad, did you walk around and check out the district?
I did not.
Just kidding.
Thanks, Larry.
Any further questions?
I drive it every day.
No?
All it does is cut the Doolittle home in half, correct? Okay.
Okay.
So I make a motion to accept the Article
little one.
23.
A second?
Second.
Okay, Dan. All right. Any further discussion?
Across the street, the parcel that's behind Boyden, is that now open for development? Was there space back there that somebody wanted to develop behind, like up behind Boyden? No? Am I wrong on that? Okay.
I'm not familiar with it.
All right. I thought, I heard somebody bringing something to the planning board about that plot of land back behind Boyden, but maybe I was mistaken.
Dr. Altman is back there.
Okay. Okay, no further questions? All in favor? Aye. Okay, 7-0.
Larry, you skipped 22.
I did, I'll come back to you, Jack. I know, I realized that. Okay, back to Article 22. Jack?
Now, Article 22 is essentially asking the town to accept a model bylaw that the state has put together. The National Flood Insurance Program, a federal program, has requirements. If we don't meet those requirements in principle, we would not be able to, our residents could not collect insurance under that program. So in order to ensure that doesn't happen, the state has put this model bylaw together, and it essentially shows, or it links to a 2015 map which shows flood zones. I don't see any reason why not to go forward with this. It replaces a much shorter floodplain article or bylaw, which is much less specific.
I think when I get my home insurance, it defaults to as if you are in a floodplain if you don't have these plans to show that you aren't in a floodplain.
And Jack, if we
the
don't
original
adopt
default.
this, the
So-
availability of flood insurance to residents?
Well, if we don't accept this, there is a risk that if somebody is flooded out, they will not be able to collect insurance.
Qualify
Now,
for
how
that.
real that risk is, I'm not sure.
Actually, in Massachusetts, I should know because I work in a bank, there are, I believe, 6 communities in the whole state that did not adopt the FEMA flood map plan. So it's one of those things that right now, last couple of years, Congress passed, you have the FEMA flood and then you get the private flood insurance. But bottom line is that the FEMA program is better, it's cheaper versus the private.
Yeah.
Now, I did, when I had my meeting with Chris, because I thought this might have something to do with dam projects, and the one on West Street is the one that we're currently dealing with now, but there's like 8 dams that we're responsible for in this town. So it could come into effect later on if there's other issues that need to be taken care of. But at least for the West Street project, that's the one that's under work now. He says that the projections weren't that it was not going to backfill and create more water more wetlands than already is there. So it wasn't going to impact this.
Wouldn't impact it.
It shouldn't affect this one here. And but it's always that's why they keep redoing them every 10 years, and this is just part of that normal cycle of going through it. I just want to make sure it wasn't going to hold this up. When I asked him, I said, "Is that project going to, delay this?" And he said, "No."
Any further questions for Jack?
So I move we approve Article 22 as written.
You have a
I'll
second? Okay, Tom. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? 7-0.
Get monotonous.
So Article 22. Okay, next one is Article 24, Tom.
Yeah, as Paige was telling us, it's simply a correction for the legal record, administrative correction. What was it here? You're replacing the chart as to what building zone code was. It was changed. They don't remember exactly when, but it reflected as wrong in the bylaws. So now I just want to correct it right back to where it's supposed to be. That's all.
But is it a technical
Housekeeping
correction then?
Tom,
It's housekeeping?
Yeah, Tom,
Housekeeping.
this was just something, they put the wrong letter symbols in, something
Either the
like that?
chart didn't transfer properly when they were typesetting it and put it in,
Okay.
and it just picked up the wrong information on that line. So they're just putting it back to where it was prior.
Okay.
Housekeeping? Okay, so housekeeping. Okay, you want to make a motion, Tom?
I'll make a motion, Article
Second.
24.
Okay,
Accept.
got the second there. Do you have a question?
No.
Okay. No. Any further discussion? No. All in favor? 7-0. Okay, next one is Article 25. Brett?
Great. Okay, so this was, again, given by Paige. It was, she had said it was a standard procedure. It was just acceptance of Congen Circle as a public way within the Highland Farm subdivision. Wasn't really a whole lot of discussion on it. It just seems straightforward record keeping somewhat,
I have a
right?
question. I know years ago we have someone on AdCom, I won't mention names, when that person did the street acceptance, he walked and checked out the whole street to make sure that the water was draining properly.
I will do
So I'm
that
just
next
curious,
year.
Did you do it?
Next year. Well, this
Don't
weekend.
laugh, he did it.
Did you? Okay.
I know. I'll take it seriously.
No, I mean, I know these areas, but, right.
So next year, make sure.
I will do a physical walkthrough.
Okay, pour some water, see the drainage to make sure.
I will do that.
Okay, any further questions for Brad? Brad, would you like, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so this is part of a subdivision. Do we know if any of the other cul-de-sacs or parts of the street are left not public way, and why was this one waiting for us?
Chris is gonna jump on. Hey, Chris, can you answer the question?
Yeah, so everything else in that neighborhood has already been accepted. There were a few transfers of ownership within that development through the project. So this was just the last piece of that subdivision that finally got built. Houses are all built, roads up to where it needs to be. So it's now ready to be accepted.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Brad, you want to
So
make a
again, a
motion?
motion to accept Article 25 as recommended.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Any further questions, discussion? No? All in favor? 7-0.
Brendan, just so you know, they always make the new guy walk those things, so.
Yes, absolutely. I caught that.
You know, I did better,
He did it.
Passage, right?
no, I did better than that. When I walked them last year, I conned my wife into joining me.
I remember, I was so impressed my first time, like, wow.
You had your tape measure too, didn't you?
Yeah, I don't think you ever walked through these things, but.
Okay, now the next one is Article 26. Dan?
Are we gonna go through Article 26 tonight?
You might think there's only 7 of the 11 here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking there might be a
Because that
lot
might be
more
some
context
discussion
than
on
what
that
we
one.
That's
have.
fine. Do you want to at least give us whatever you have, a summary of what's going on for now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me just kind of give everyone a view into where I am in the process right now. I'm talking with Shelby this coming week, so we should be prepared to talk on Tuesday or Wednesday about this in full.
Okay.
I've watched the selectmen's meeting regarding this. I've had comments with people who have pushed this article in the past. I've had comments with people who oppose this article right now, and I think it should bring a lively discussion next week. I don't want to get too deep into it now. I think one thing that I'm going to continue to stress is that our job here is to advise the town of Foxborough. There is some back and forth over whether the article should be amended or not. I think outside of that, it's not our role. Our role is to take what is given to us, say, are you willing to make any concessions? No? Okay, then this is how we advise the town of Foxborough, independent of our, as a board together, we say that, either we think this is good for the town or not. And I think independent of whether we agree with the general idea, we need to come to a consensus on how the article is written and whether we think that is what is best for the town of Foxborough. Going through it, I think I made it pretty clear in my questions when Shelby was on that I had a few issues with the way some of the article was written. I am going to talk with Shelby again before our next meeting. I'm hoping that I can get a better grasp on why there's no give and take, no comments going back and forth. And hopefully come to an agreement on, how we can best, make some changes and keep everyone happy. And, if we can't, then we'll have to, vote on it the way it is, and that'll be that. But again, I want to, have a final talk with Shelby, wrap it all up. I'll likely have, I don't want to say prepared statements for next Tuesday, but, basically
Wednesday.
Have talking points, essentially, of, basically, what I'll do is I'll read the article, call out any issues I may have, call out if they're going to be addressed or not, then open up the floor after that is how I'll approach it. I think it's going to be a lively discussion here, and I think it's going to be a lively discussion at town meeting, and I think it should be. I think it's an important enough article that if it wasn't, I'd be disappointed that people weren't taking it so seriously.
Bill, can I ask you a question for clarification? A citizen petition, only the citizens that did the petition can make changes to the article, correct? Correct, because if there are no changes, we vote as is.
Yeah, that's right. You vote
Up
on
or
it
down,
as
yeah.
it's presented.
Yeah,
And,
okay.
Only the presenter can make the amendment.
So, follow-up question. Oh, go ahead.
I know we're using town meeting rules as opposed to Robert's Rules of Order, but does that change have to come from the floor, or can it come from the podium, from the presenter, owner of the bill? And can they reject it as being unwarranted or unfavorable to the bill?
Yeah, I think that you're reading a little too much into that. I think that it's really pretty straightforward. It's that what will happen is that if the presenter goes to town meeting and then says, I want to offer an amendment to our original article, they would have to make it in the form of a motion, right? And then that would have to be determined. Then the town meeting the moderator would have to accept that, and they would have to be determined if then the body would have to vote on that particular amendment. If that survived, then the original motion would have to be amended to reflect that.
Right.
If in fact they do not do that, the article gets, and the motion gets voted on as is. So, so it's pretty straightforward, you know, either way. But I suppose before, none of the town bodies can actually make a motion to amend it, but somebody from the floor could vote to amend it. So somebody could get up at town meeting and say, look, I make a motion to amend this article, or amend this motion. And they could do that. It wouldn't have to necessarily be the presenters at that point. That would have to be done at town meeting, but it wouldn't be something that this body could do, or the selectmen, or anyone else would have. It would have to come from town meeting itself.
Hey, Bill, are there any implications to the BOS approved a form of this warrant at their, or they disapproved, sorry, 2 to 3, right?
No, they just voting to recommend, not recommend and not recommend.
Right, okay. But there's no implications of the fact that potentially we could be looking at a differently worded warrant article?
Well, the article itself will stay the same. It's the motion that could change.
Okay.
Okay.
Got it, thank you.
Right.
All right.
Okay, thanks, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much else. If anybody has any questions, you know, feel free to reach out. Still kind of doing a little final research on it. I think my goal is to present it as impartially as possible at town meeting, despite of how we recommend it or not, or the Board of Selectmen recommends it or not. I think my goal is just to make it clear to the audience, to the town, what is being presented. It is a large article. It is a little confusing. I think my goal is just to clear it up so that, you know, everyone can understand and be knowledgeable when they vote. So.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. Okay, last item is Article 27, and that's mine. Okay, this one is the citizens. The only way for the citizen to get a refund is through a town warrant article. I believe the new amount, in the article is 5,400. That's the old number. What's the new number, Bill? 2620. I think so.
25 to 26.
Yeah, call it 2,600. So this is a refund. That's just something that's been going on for about 14 years, and this article is the only way for the citizens to get her money back. And I think we all saw the presentation from Jim DeValis a couple of weeks ago. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer on this article. But this is the only way to do it. There's no way Bill could write a check, or it's just.
Is that a motion that's going to be on the floor to change that number because it's already in the warrant?
No, the motion, it's this body could actually vote to recommend the motion that's lower.
Lower.
If it was higher than that, that would be a problem.
Right.
But if it's lower, it can actually, this body can actually recommend a lower number.
Right. Right.
Is that what we should be voting on, is the lower number? So we need
the motion. The article's going to stay the same, but the motion will be small, will be low. Okay.
The motion the one that we get from Frank
Right.
at town meeting will have the exact amount.
Right.
I talked to Jim DeValis since his presentation is he agreed to the new amount, plus he was going to put in plus $1.
Yeah.
So this is what he told me. So whatever the amount is,
Right.
2,600, and add $1 to it.
Yep.
26 over. So any questions? Any further questions? Anyone?
Right. The only question is, do we vote on the correct number now, or do we vote at that?
I think we just
vote to recommend it, right?
this article.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Larry, I was just curious, is Jim an attorney, or is he kind of acting
No,
as a
he's-
citizen
He is a
representative?
former selectman. I believe he's
Former
a
selectman is an engineer. Right?
engineer. Yeah.
Okay.
He was also chair of this board too before.
Yeah.
He was selectman.
He was on AdCom before years ago, but that's besides the point. So.
Yeah, I was just curious
Okay.
if anyone can represent another citizen in a citizen petition, or
can.
if they need to have any.
You can.
You can.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can.
Actually recommend another citizen.
Okay.
Research.
All right, thank you.
Okay. I make a motion to vote on this article as written. Second. Thank you. Further discussion?
I think this one's going to be pretty.
You never
I
know.
don't think there's going to be anybody opposed to this one, either here or at town meeting.
All in favor? Okay, 7-0. Thank you.
And if there was a way to do it earlier, I would have. Absolutely would.
Yeah. So what I have is a couple housekeeping items. So all the articles that was voted on today, you can start writing up your
Chairman, are
your
you all
report.
set with that?
give me a minute, I'll talk to you.
Okay.
So start writing on the articles, and then next week, we will have a meeting next Wednesday. We're gonna vote on remaining articles, plus we're gonna start on the department budget. So if we can get everything done next week, great. If not, we'll have a shorter meeting 2 weeks from now.
When are write-ups due for the report?
I have to submit it to the town by the middle of April, so preferably if I get it before maybe April 10th at the latest, that way I can look at it, put them together, combine them, so the sooner the better. So anything that's voted tonight.
Like 2 weeks before, I think, right? Has to be posted in the paper 2 weeks before the town meeting?
Well, the reporter will no longer post our.
Oh, it doesn't?
No, but I'm going to talk to Dan after this.
It's not my newspaper. Come on.
Well, you might know someone.
Yeah, right.
Know someone.
Okay, but then in response to that, then will these be posted on the town website?
Yeah, we can do that.
You can do that.
Our write-ups?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to try to reach out to the
That's the first time it would happen, that's all
the
I'm
patch,
asking.
Foxborough patch. But I'm here with tough. I need to get in touch with Patch. If I can do it, Patch, I'll do it. But town.
We can post it too.
Yeah, town. That's.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Larry, can you let me know, this is new for me, what do I have to write up?
We can talk about the meeting.
You talk later?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, start writing the articles now. Get it done. The sooner the better. And then next week is the game plan is to the remaining 7 or 8 articles. We're going to vote on it, and then we're going to start voting on the budget item, which could, it's pretty straightforward, but Bernard is very detailed. He's going to call out the numbers. The email I mentioned was the couple of ways we can do it. If we're not going to object to, let's say, the historical commission, so we vote the whole budget. But something like the library, I'm just making it up. I'm not saying we have a problem, but the library has the expenses and the payroll. So if someone has a problem with, let's say, the expenses, we will vote the payroll, and then we'll discuss on the expenses, and then we combine them. So, but if there's no objection, but now it's going to ask. If we don't have any objection, we're just going to vote one amount, final amount by department to move it along. Okay? So that's all I have.
Did we need to approve minutes?
We did.
Oh, we did.
We did, beginning.
Seems so long ago.
I was
Yeah, we did an hour ago.
I was 5 minutes late, so I added my.
Yeah, we left you out. That's okay.
All right, very good.
Yeah.
You can still vote for them now.
Yeah.
You want to vote for the minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll add you to the. So in case you guys are wondering, the guy that was on the screen earlier, that was Tony.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Someone want to make a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? 7. Thank you.
Good night, gentlemen.
Good night.
Thank you very much.
everyone.
Great.
Have a great Easter, everybody.
Thank you.
as well.